Master Your Mindset with Nate Schooler and Kim Adele.
Hey.
Hey, Kim. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too, my lovely. So what name are we going by today?
Nat is fine.
Hey.
Nate is for my podcasting book.
What's his face?
I was in a hurry, Kim. And the reason is because for some reason, my Logitech software does not play very well with the software that we're using. Anyhow, we are here
to blame our tools. My reason for bringing it up was I know somebody who's really good at branding that I work with all of the time, almost daily, who tells me that consistency is king.
Quirkiness is also good. Quirky. Quirky, Kim.
Quirky.
So anyway, what are we here to talk about? We're here to talk about the importance of having a clear goal setting model. And you have been running me through my paces around that in the past few months, right? Like we've set goals and, you know, I kind of started doing some research around this because I wanted to delve more into it. And yeah, it's been amazing to learn about this. And I still got a lot more to learn. And it's really important, you know, without goals.
There's a real psychological benefit, easy for me to say on a Friday, about having goals. And in fact, there was a study done, I think it was done by Harvard, that showed that, hey, Stephen, oh, bless you, thank you, that showed that actually if we set goals, we stand a much bigger chance of succeeding. In fact, as part of their research, they identified that only 3% of the people studied actually had not only a goal, but an action plan to achieve the goal. And when they went back and looked at those people that had got a goal and an action plan to achieve it, returned results 10 times greater than anybody else. And that got me thinking about how the wealth is distributed globally. And it can't be any coincidence that 1% of the population have more than 50% of the global wealth. When we think about that, 3% can deliver 10 times the results of anybody else. And it goes on to state that actually 81% of the global wealth is actually owned by 10% of the global population. So if we want to stand our best chance of delivering what we would like, I'll get it for you, Stephen. Thank you. If we want to be able to deliver the best results, the best return, then actually one of the things that we can invest in today is ensuring that we've got a goal and we've got an action plan to get there. Doesn't mean to say that those actions are all going to go perfectly. As we know, sometimes we set off on a path, we think that we know where we're going, and then we hit a roadblock or life throws in its little plot twist for us. But if we've got an action plan, then we're able to keep reviewing our progress against those actions, identify the roadblocks, and find alternative ways to go around them.
Yeah, very much so. So, I mean, in the past few weeks, you've been helping me to learn more about the two major goal setting methods and OKRs and SMART, right? Hello, Jules. Nice to see you too. And so, what's the major difference then, Kim? I know we've got this massive blog that we're literally just about to release on OKRs and SMART. It's like an executive kind of thing. It's not like too detailed, but it gives enough information. So if you're an executive and you're looking to kind of achieve your goals, it'll really help. So what are the difference between the two major goal setting methods?
Great question. So I guess really OKRs have often been used for those goals that are more qualitative than quantitative, the ones that are actually a bit more difficult sometimes to be able to get the right measures. And SMART are probably the ones that most of us have used over the years. Both of them have got some real alignment. If you look into the detail of both of them, you'll see that actually they both suggest that you need clarity, that you need to know exactly what it is that you're trying to do, that how you're going to get there, and how you're going to keep yourself honest. So track your progress to see where they're going. But obviously with OKRs, what you're really saying is you've got the objective, so what it is I'm trying to achieve. And then I've got my key results. So what are the measures that matter? And that's one of the key differences really around OKRs, is it talks about measuring what matters, not measuring what you can, which is unfortunately one of the things that we fall into the trap of. We put in vanity measures because they make us feel good, or we start measuring things just because we can, not because they're actually going to give us an indicator of whether or not it's important. OKRs were adopted by Google over 20 odd years ago, and we've seen how successful they are. And they are used very often in those technology-based companies, because what they allow you to do is take one objective across a variety of people, so across a virtual team, and say we're trying to achieve the same goal. But as an example, how Kim contributes towards that goal is very different to how Nat contributes towards that goal. So we've got the same objective, but we've got different key results in how we're going to achieve it. If we look at SMART, SMART is saying that actually when we think about our goal, we need to be specific about what it is. We need to be able to measure it. We need to make sure it's attainable, that actually we stand a chance of getting there. We know what steps we're going to take. It has to be realistic. And within that, what we mean is, have we got the time, the knowledge, the resources? Is it in budget? Are we actually setting ourselves up for failure? And then that it's time bound. We know when we're going to attempt to deliver it by, and that can keep us on track. But I think whichever one of those models you use, the bits that are really important are gaining that clarity, being really honest about where you're going, and being really honest about where you're starting from. Because if you're not really clear on both of those, you're not really setting yourself up for success. And then the key to all success, in my opinion, is to keep talking about it. If we write these goals and we put them in a drawer and we only get round to discussing them with ourselves or with our people when it's mid-year or end of year, we don't stand a very good chance of actually delivering them. They need to be something that is real, that is used all of the time, that is part of our everyday conversation, not in a hello, Nat, here's my list of objectives for you this morning. Where have you got to? But just in that piece, it's going, we do it with these reflections of the week, which is to reflect on where did we want to get to this week and how well have we done? Which bits have gone well and which bits haven't gone so well that we can do differently next week to give ourselves a better result, or that we can replicate next week to give ourselves an equally good result. And I think if we can start to encourage people to just have more conversations, to just keep talking about them and making it open debate, I think we have had a culture historically where feedback is a challenge, and it's not a surprise because particularly as a British person, we're not very good at feedback. So if we tell somebody they're doing a good job, we'll go, Nat, great job. Okay, well, that's not feedback. That's like a throwaway comment. If I want it to be feedback, I need to let you know what it was you did, what was the impact of it, why I want you to do more of it again, so that you know exactly what it is I want you to replicate. Because let's face it, if you do something I don't want you to do, I will be all over it like a rash. I'll tell you what you did, how it made me feel, what the impact was, why it was horrendous. So it's no surprise that when people are given feedback, the first reaction is, oh God, no, I don't want it. Thanks, keep it. It's all yours. I often joke that feedback is a gift. It doesn't come with a receipt. You can't give it back. You've got to be able to accept and acknowledge it. But I think the only way we're going to be able to really change our viewpoint, change our vantage point, and develop that culture of continuous improvement is at the point that we all recognize that we are all lifelong learners. And that has to start with the leader. If you're not demonstrating that you're in it to learn, that you're up for the feedback yourself, you're not creating a place where actually continuous improvement is going to be really embraced and adopted.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so. Thank you for joining us also, everybody. We really appreciate it. Peter's here as well. So, I think when it comes to communication and effectively communicating this feedback, right? We talk every day, and I think talking every day, communicating every day, and being very, very clear that, if you are sending that email, just be careful. When you're sending an email, it could be that you may send it in the wrong tone. You might think, well, I don't need to put emojis in an email. Well, actually, taking your time to maybe put a smiley face in there or something to just soften that communication can oftentimes be a really, really good idea, actually, to be honest. And motivational too, you know.
Yeah, because the written word can be misconstrued, as can the verbal word. We can pick up a bit of slang. It always reminds me of many years ago. I really am showing my age now because this is going back to when I was hairdressing. I grew up in Nottingham and I worked in Leicester. And I remember this one particular day saying, I'm going to the cob shop, which made perfect sense to me as somebody from Nottingham. That is a crusty roll. So I was going to go and get a sandwich. And the response I got was, what's wrong with you? And I went, what do you mean, what's wrong with me? And they went, who's upset you? So I don't know what you're talking about. I just wondered if anybody wanted a sandwich. I'm going to the sandwich shop. But cob in Leicester means you're upset. You're mardy. You've been hurt in some way. So even something as throwaway as going to the sandwich shop can elicit a reaction that you didn't expect. So I think sometimes it's about thinking about those parts and trying to frame that conversation. If you've got to give somebody some feedback where they've not quite done what you wanted them to do, I always start with the fact that my belief is that people have positive intention. I don't think anybody gets up in the morning and goes, I wonder how to really irritate my boss. I wonder how to be really bad at what I do. I wonder how to really annoy the people that I'm going to meet today. I'm not saying nobody ever has that feeling, but I don't think it's the rule. I think it might be the exception. And therefore, Mardy is Pete. I love having a good Mardy. But I think, if you work on the fact that the intention was honourable, even if the impact was off, I often find starting with, I think what you're trying to achieve is, and really gain that agreement collectively on what it is you think that they're trying to achieve. And once you've aligned to that, you can go, brilliant, that's such an amazing goal. That's exactly what I want you to do. What I am here to talk to you about is, whilst that's what you're trying to do, it's not quite what's happening. So can I help you understand how you're getting in your own way? Because we all have blind spots for a reason. We're blind to them. And therefore, you're so right, Steve. It is, the language is so vital, especially working internationally. Understanding the cultural differences and the nuances is crucial to making sure that we don't inadvertently create a crisis out of a drama. And we kind of really need to bear that in mind. But I think the more that we are open and have those conversations, the easier it is. I remember many years ago saying to people, if I'm doing something really irritating, do me a favor, let me know. Because even if it's really obvious, I promise I don't know. And therefore, I am going to continue to do it. And you're going to continue to get frustrated. Oh, Patricia, thank you so much. And it wasn't until things went horribly wrong. So I joined and we hit our numbers and everything was going great. In fact, it was going so great that I got told by my boss if I needed to slow it down slightly, because if not, we were going to give ourselves a real challenge for the following year. So I'd agreed that we would take a bit of a breather. We'd take a couple of days out. We'd take a sales team on a community support day. Never did that. Never the sales team. Other people got to go, but sales were, they were tied to their desk. And I was like, we'll do that. We'll take everybody out for a couple of days. And then we hit August, and August was so horrendous that we merged it with September and called it Augtember and hoped that might help us with the motivation. And things got very heated. Our end of financial year was September, and all of a sudden I was under a lot of pressure to say, you're going to have to cancel the CSR event, Kim. Like you can't be seen to be doing that when you're not hitting your number. And I was like, I can't do that. I've stood here in front of these people and told them that revenue is not king. If we do the right thing in the right way and we put the customer first, we will achieve what we're designed to achieve. And if now, the minute that we have some difficulty, the minute something doesn't go our way, I immediately throw all that out of the window and say it's all about the number, you may as well sack me. I've got no credibility here as a leader. And their response was, you do realise if you don't hit your number, the likelihood is you won't be here as a leader. I went, I get that. So I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't, but I'm going to have to stick by my values. I'm going to have to stay true to what's important to me, because that's the only way I know how to lead. And so we did. We kind of stuck to it. We went and did the CSR event. I remember on the very last day going into it, I think I've shared this story before, we needed to hit 250,000 and we'd never, ever got anywhere near more than 180 on Friday.
But that's in one day, yeah?
I was in one day, yeah, but it was about
Yeah.
giving that belief. It was about being really clear what our goal was in the morning. So this is what we need. And actually, our best way of getting there is to keep doing what we've been doing. We put the customer first, we keep our focus, we don't lose our nerve, and we trust in the fact that if we're doing the right thing in the right way and we stay consistent, that we will get the results. It was probably one of the highlights of my career. By lunchtime, the heels were off. I was so exhausted running around getting people drinks, but I still vividly remember the atmosphere and the fact that I had people coming up, and it was they were putting sales on the board or letting us know that they'd got revenue and giving me a hug and saying, we're doing this for you because you have done so much for making sure that you stay consistent. But for me, what was really important is I'd been telling them for months, give me feedback. If I'm getting it wrong, give me feedback, Nobody would. And it wasn't until after we'd got through that they said, we just weren't sure that you could be this consistent. And we wanted to see what happened when things went horribly wrong, because it's all well and good to be the happy, positive, cheery person when things are going swimmingly. But actually, we needed to see what you were like under a crisis. And even in a crisis, even with the board sat in the room, like smiling at me while I was doing a shout out, they said, you were just the same person. I was like, yeah, I'm not bright enough to have more than one agenda. It's like, I'm here to have the one agenda, which is to do the job I'm being paid to do. And to empower my team going is so important.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a lovely comment there from Wendy. She loves listening to your story. I like it as well, Kim. That's why we work together every day, right? And, you know, we've been a bit quiet on our lives because we've been busy, really busy writing blogs and things like that. So, you know, we've been following a very clear coaching framework, right? That digs deep into each aspect required to achieve success, yeah? And that's something which you've been using for, what, decades, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of you to not point out how old I am, but nearly 30 years. It was silent on me now. Everyone knows I'm old. It's fine.
Interesting comment here from Jules. Everything you speak of, I see links into energy work that empowers, and the reflections are so important to see in order to learn from our flaws. So exactly, yeah, so we can shine brighter. Totally agree with that.
Completely, Jules. I mean, I always think we grow through our pain only when we go through our pain. So we have to go back and look at what went wrong and what have I learned? What's it teaching me? Even when, you know, life throws us something that doesn't feel like it's really well deserved, I always think, well, it's either a lesson, a blessing, or both. And if it's not feeling like a blessing, then I need to go and have a look at what lesson it is that I'm there to learn. Because if not, life will repeat the lesson until I learn it. So actually, it's better to go and have a look at it and say, what am I learning? What did I do that was perhaps put me on this path, and can I tweak it? And we need to remember that, you know, diamonds are just rocks that did really well under pressure. So if we bear that in mind, then when things are getting us down, we just think, I'm going to come out the other side a diamond.
Yeah, very much so. So when it comes to this grow coaching model, right? You know, if anyone wants to go and grab more information on that, if you're a coach or a corporate leader or someone that's sort of a bit stuck in your career, you can go to elitecoachesclub.com. And whilst it does say it's for coaches, actually it is applicable to everybody. If you want to coach yourself or coach your team or your clients, it's perfect. So go and grab that. But in terms of the grow model, Kim, do you want to just share a bit about what that entails, and then we'll wrap up? Yeah,
of course. So I've been using Grow for years. In fact, I even use it on my little girl when we're trying to get ready for nursery. You know, it's like the goal is I need us to be out of the door because I need to get her to nursery, I need to get to work, and the reality is she wants to play and doesn't really want to put her shoes on. So we then go through the options of like, here's your choices, mummy picks your shoes, you pick your shoes, mummy gets grumpy, and then we agree a way forward. So it can be used in literally all walks of life. You can use it if you're wanting to try a new hobby, if you're wanting to lose weight, even if you're wanting to have a more effective team meeting, agreeing what your goal is, then really being honest about your reality. Where are you right now? And then start to understand what are the obstacles that are getting in your way from where you are to where you want to be. And also, what are the options of things you could do to bridge that gap? And then the final bit is the willingness and the way forward. So what things are you willing to do? Because some of these things are going to require us to change. If I want to stick to my diet, I am going to have to stop going in my little girl's chocolate cupboard and thinking it's appropriate just because they're tiny, that's okay. It's not okay. I just need to back away from the chocolate tin. But it's knowing that, it's being able to look at it and saying, actually, am I willing to do that? What are the things that I am going to be able to do? And where are the times that are actually going to get in my way? And then using it at the end, at the end of every week when I reflect, having weighed myself in and go, yeah, okay, so what didn't you do that you said you were going to do? And why was that? Was it because you actually weren't that committed to the goal in the first place? Or was it because you weren't being that honest about your reality? Or had you given yourself something you just weren't willing to do? So I think that as a model, I use it all the time. In fact, it's almost become second nature. I forget that I'm using it and find myself, as I say with my little girl, going through the steps, because I know that it's a really great way of helping me get from where I am to where I want to go.
Yeah, and it's totally just learning about where you're at, what you've learned from the past, and how you're going to move forwards to where you want to get to, right? And always remembering that goal and working the plan. It's all about the plan, because my dad used to lecture around goal setting and stuff like back in the 1980s. And I shared an infographic earlier around that. And it's totally the same sort of process that you've basically outlined here. And, I think it's fascinating, really, actually working on these goals and achieving the goals tying the goals into the motivation to achieving the goal, and then feeling good about that every day and every step of the way is feeling closer to that bigger goal, is what keeps you, on a level of happiness, right? Because who wants to go to work and be miserable because your goal is like unrealistic or ridiculous? Yeah. So
yeah, and I think it's breaking it down, isn't it, into those bite-sized pieces so that you can actually acknowledge yourself for how far you've come, or hold yourself to account if you've not come far enough. So, if you think about, if we were to climb Everest, you don't go and climb Everest in a day. There's camps along the way for a very good reason. One is you need to be able to acknowledge how far you've come to enable you to get the motivation to keep going. And two, you need to be able to give yourself time to rest and recuperate, to keep that momentum going. And the same is true of whatever goal we're doing. So I think some of it is around looking at those parts and saying, is the timeline realistic? So as an example, I might have said that I want to set company standards for the entire organization. Well, that's a bit too open-ended. So I could either be on track or off track and not know. If instead I was to say, I want to be able to set company standards, and I'm committing to have written one policy and tested it every 4 weeks, that allows me to keep myself honest. Have I done it? Have I done the policy? Am I on track? Or actually, am I off track and I need to do something different? So I think it is so important that we break it down. But then equally, it's important that we practice self-compassion. We are human beings. Life gets in the way. We can have the best plan in the world. And this is not me saying, well, actually, let's just give ourselves all a get out jail free card and we don't need to. But I think, having been somebody who suffered from imposter syndrome for a lot of years, I loved my hair shirt. I wouldn't get something right and I would add it to all the other things I'd not got right over the years and all the reasons why I was hopeless and couldn't add any value and couldn't do anything for anybody. And that's just a lot of dead weight to carry around. Instead, now I look at it sometimes and go, do you know what? You didn't quite do what you wanted to get done. Understand why was that? What happened? What can I learn from it? And then commit to the fact that tomorrow is a brand new day. So rather than to open the day with today's disappointments, I open it with the gratitude of the fact I've got a blank sheet to start again, and I can make today a better day than my previous one.
Very much so. Well, you've shared massive value, and for people that are just joining, should go back and kind of watch the recording wherever you're at. And and if you are a coach or an executive leader or someone that wants to goal set effectively, then go to elitecoachesclub.com and check out the information there. That'll take you to some info, and then literally go and grab the Grow training. And thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. And thanks, Kim. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you guys very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to Master Mindset. Please don't forget to follow wherever you listen and tell your friends.